Check one, check two. This is Adam, worship leader for February 20 something 2023. Cool. Yep.
good to see so many people here in Bell Hall today. And welcome if you're joining us on YouTube, online. For those of you I might not have met yet, my name is Teresa. My pronouns are she and her, and I want to welcome you here. We always start with singing, so please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and join us on our first song here. It's February, dark and cold. Where is the light? And this new year's moving slow. Where is the light? And the sun runs off to bed too soon. Where is the light? And there's nothing but a skinny moon. Where is the light? Can you tell me? Where is the light? Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. Now it's dark each morning when I rise. Where is the light? And it's dark when my eggs are frying. Where is the light? And it's dark when off to work I go. Where is the light? And it's dark again when I get home. Where is the light? Can you tell me? Where is the light? Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. It's in my skin and in my bones. It's in my heart and in my soul. That light of mine so bright and golden, like the summer day. When the sun goes missing in the sky, it is rising in my eyes, chasing all that winter blue away. I'm burning bright like kerosene. Where is the light? I'm twinkling like the Pleiades. Where is the light? I'm dancing like a candle flame. Where is the light? And I'm flaming like a fruit flambe. Where is the light? Can you tell me? Where is the light? Come on now. Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. Where is the light? Where is the light? Where is the light? Oh, the light's inside of me. Oh my gosh, the sun came out. Thank you. If you know this next song here, this is one of our favorites. Please do sing along. This is called Wash Away. I got troubles, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they're gonna wash away. They're gonna wash away. And I have sins, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they're gonna wash away. They're gonna wash away. I got friends, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they're gonna wash away. They done washed away. Oh, I've been crying. Lord, I've been crying. No, no more crying. No, no more crying. We get along, Lord, but not today. 'Cause we gonna wash away. We gonna wash away. I got troubles, Lord, but not today. 'Cause they gonna wash away. This old river's gonna take them away. Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, for our third and final song here. This one, I want to hear some voices out there, all right? We're going to take this gentle. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let discrimination turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let discrimination turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no bigotry turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let no bigotry turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. All right, last time. Put your hands up if you feel moved. Let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
Welcome to WellSprings, both to those here in person and everyone joining us online this morning. My name is Adam, my pronouns are he and him, and I had too much fun last night. But I am so thankful that WellSprings rousted me out of bed this morning to be leading our worship service today. Each week when we gather, we light a chalice as a symbol of our spiritual heritage as Unitarian Universalists. It's not just a symbol of what is past, but what is present. That divine spark, that inner light that shines at the heart of each of our lives. As we light this chalice, may we share our light with each other and with the world. We've asked Joanna to come forward to light our chalice, and after they've done so, we'll say these words together. All good. Happy birthday, Joanna. Happy, happy. 39, one more time. And together we say, we light this chalice to celebrate the path lit before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. Good morning. Our mission here at WellSprings is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. Ooh, it was a good night last night at the annual Party for the Market at the Reading Terminal Market, a fundraising gala for the not-for-profit that runs and manages the market down in Philadelphia. My brother was a sponsor of the event and asked my wife and I to join them. Although there was quite a lot of pomp and circumstance and I was looking pretty fly, I took the time to notice what those involved with the market had to say about my brother. He owns a commercial wireless installation company and has planned, installed, and upgraded the wireless at the market for many years. Our message series has been making a life, and although I'm very familiar with what he does, it was great to see how other people rely on his work and how it impacts what they do and their ability to be successful. Last night's check-in process, equipment, silent auction relied heavily on some, or in some cases solely, on the wireless network that he created and that it was working flawlessly. He was diligent in the days leading up to the event in ensuring that everything worked and tested and retested the peripheral connectivity to make sure that the market's participants had the most enjoyable time. And did we ever? One of the operations folks had nothing but incredible accolades from my brother at the end as we waited by the silent auction tables to see if we won 2 of the items that we had bid on, and where I found out that my wallet is quite a bit lighter this morning, but that my son and daughter will get to go enjoy a trip to Kalahari. So, before I wrap up this charged fool, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a very cool experience about him making a life through his work last week. He was in New York last week doing wireless work for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. You've probably heard me talk many times about how my mother and some older family members have had Parkinson's disease, that same affliction that Michael J. Fox has, and that his foundation raises money for research and action. In his interactions with the group, he was sure to talk about my mom like the rock star she is to anyone who would listen. They also discussed some additional work that they would like to have him back for, and he was proud to be doing it for an organization whose time, effort, and funding has advanced Parkinson's research, with a little help from my brother, and changed our family's life. Thank you. There are WellSprings shirts in the back today. If you ordered them and paid for them already and you haven't picked them up, there's some back there and they're bagged up for you to pick up. There's also some folks who have ordered shirts after the deadline order date, and we have some of those, but they have not been paid for yet. Those are back there as well. Just let me know. I think I have a checklist of some folks who have ordered shirts but haven't paid for them yet. So please see me right after the service if you know that you've ordered them or paid for them and haven't picked them up yet. This morning, I'd like to especially welcome any newcomers. If this is your first or second time with us, we are so glad you are here. I hope that you fill out a connection card so you can learn more about us and start to introduce yourself too. If you're watching from home, there's a link to the online connection card in the description below the video. If you're here in person, you can fill out that connection card on your phone through the WellSprings app and see any of our greeters this morning to get connected. Greeters, could we raise our hands, please? There we go. Thank you, thank you. If you'd like to interact with folks who are joining us online this morning, there's a live chat available on YouTube. To access it, you will need a YouTube or Google account. Sign in, click the live chat button to say hello. Finally, you can always find more information about today's service as well as our upcoming events and news through our WellSprings app or by scanning the QR code available on the welcome table just inside the front doors here in Bell Hall. We have a few pieces of news that we would like to highlight this weekend, and for that we'll go to our Membership and Communications Coordinator, Jessica Heichel.
Hi, WellSprings. My name is Jessica Heichel with 3 announcements for you this week. Up first, today, right after service, is our potluck lunch, so we hope you're able to stay with us for that. We're going to be right over in the dining hall, which is just around the corner across the quad here at the Montgomery School, so hope to see you there. Second announcement is just a reminder that Meals for St. Mary's program is going on, so if you are able to contribute any part of a home-cooked meal for the family staying at St. Mary's Shelter. We are adopting the week of meals during the week of March 6th through 10th. And there is a sign-up sheet in today's order of service. I will also put that into the chat. Last announcement, the caring team is reforming, but before they do, they would like your input on how best to serve the community. So there is a brief, can't stress this enough, 3-question survey that's linked in today's order of service. And if you could just take honestly less than 2 minutes to fill that out, that would be very helpful. I will also put that link in the chat too. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week.
WellSprings, the foundation of all we do, is rooted in the power of connection, making space in our hearts and our lives for each other. This is the part of the service where we honor that connection by greeting one another. If you're joining from home, take a moment now to share a greeting in the live chat or maybe say hello in the WellSprings Oasis, our private group on Facebook. For those here in Bell Hall, you might also consider posting in the Oasis group to connect with our community beyond these walls. And as a reminder to those of us in this room, please ask before hugging or approaching closely, as some are more comfortable with a fist or an elbow bump these days. And if you'd prefer to keep a distance from others for any reason, just stay seated. That'll be our cue to give you a friendly wave from afar. With gratitude for all the ways that we might connect, please greet one another now. Thank you. I love this lively bunch here this morning. We can keep it lively today after the service for sure. Thank you for those warm greetings to each other. Those here in Bell Hall are invited to continue those conversations at our coffee hour, which takes place right here, right after service, just before that potluck. Generosity. I invite you now into our time of generosity, an opportunity to express our gratitude for the ways this spiritual community has an impact on all of our lives. If you feel the value of WellSprings community right now, we hope that you'll share a gift to sustain us. If you'd like, you can use your phone to give from anywhere. Just text WSprings to 73256. Our greeters will be bringing hats around for those who wish to donate by hand, and you can also drop a check or cash in the donation box near the front doors on the welcome table. And I'll always remind you that the easiest way to give is to do a recurring giving on Realm. Please set that up or ask somebody for help if you haven't had that set up yet. Always the easiest way to help us receive sustainable gifts. Thank you for all the ways that your gifts of support help WellSprings. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Great, thank you. All you guys had to do is ask me to sing along. I know that song, so I think it's what the people want, so just ask me next time. Having shared the energy between us and giving beyond us, let's take some time now to reground into the deep and soulful energy that lies within. We do this by doing what is most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath, inhaling and exhaling without rush or hurry, breathing in and breathing out. There's nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, so let's be here together now as we prepare for our time of mindful silence. We follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh into our time of meditation. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. Let us cultivate peace and experience presence in this quiet time together. Wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we are doing, however it is that we are feeling, let us remember that peace and presence are always as close to us as is our own breath. May this be so for you this moment. May it be so for you this day. May it be so for you in the days to come, and may it be so for all of us. And now I'd like to invite our congregation's children to join our staff and volunteers in the back of the room for their time of fellowship in Youth Spirit. Youth Spirit is meeting in the dining hall. Dining hall, as Jessica explained, right down here to the right of the courtyard, right behind that outdoor amphitheater. Grown-ups, please don't forget to pick up your children from Youth Spirit. We love them, but we know you love them more, and we'd really appreciate that. I'd like to invite the band back on stage for our next song.
I bet your feet are tired. Your head feels heavy hanging down. Dimming lights and lonely eyes. No visitors allowed. I bet you're holding by a thread. Should have broken half by now, but it holds your weight instead. Is there a light gonna show you the way out? Keep your head up, child. Do your best and work hard. Don't forget it only hurts for a while. Keep your head up, child. Keep your head up, child. Do your best and work hard. Don't forget it only hurts for a while. Keep your head up, child. The road that takes you home feels the same world you've always known, but you don't recognize a thing. You say you can count on me, don't wanna let nobody down. Right now it seems too dark to see, but there's a light gonna show you the way out. Keep your head up, child. Do your best and work hard. Don't forget it only hurts for a while. Keep your head up, child. Keep your head up, child. Do your best and work hard. Don't forget it only hurts for a while. Keep your head up, child. Keep your head up, child. Keep your head up, child.
These passageways got narrower since the last time we were here. Good morning, everyone. I missed you last week. I was guest preaching for another colleague on sabbatical at another local church. And they were nice and all, but I missed you. So, we are beginning today with something I might have never started a message with before in my life. It's time for a Bible pop quiz. I expected that diverse array of reactions in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Some of you sat up like, I'm ready, I've been training, put me in, coach. So, don't worry, this is not going on your permanent record if you don't know the answers. And a little background first. The Christian and the Jewish scriptures, as you might know, start in a common place. There are a few holy books that they hold in common. In Christianity, these are the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and Jews call them the Torah. And they both begin in the same place, with the same words in the book of Genesis. Who knows what those words are? Oh, you're raising hands. You're so polite. I saw Mary first. Mary? In the beginning, correct. So who knows what comes next? What happens in the beginning? A little later, Kathy? You are correct. God created the heavens and the earth. Yep, according to this story, the first thing that God did was separate and form this planet out from the rest of outer space. Valid place to start, I think. I have no notes so far. Who knows what God created second after that? Anybody? Yeah? Oh, yes, he created light. That's correct. God created light. And we enjoy light. So far, everything God is creating is very useful. Then, God separated out the land from the sky, and the waters above separated from the waters below. A beautiful piece of poetry that makes more sense when you look at a photo like the one I took this past week on that unseasonably warm day. This is a picture of the Schuylkill River, the waters above and the waters below. Then God created all the plants, the fruit trees. Then God created time and seasons and animals. And then I believe it was day 6. God created what? Humans, yeah. A human, just one. in this story. Now, much has been made about the gender of the humans in Genesis, in this story, but I will tell you that that is not my concern here today. So let's actually focus just on the fact that according to these ancient scriptures of a few different world religions, God created first one single human, the first human on earth on the sixth day. All of that happens in the very first verse of the book of Genesis. And then famously, on the seventh day, God rested. It's the second book of Genesis, right after that, where the story of humanity really starts to unfold. And right away, the writer of the scriptures takes us back to the creation of this one human being. We are told that this is the moment when God actually breathed life into the first human, creating a living soul, and placed this human in a garden, it says, to work the ground and keep it in order. And then God sat back and looked around and realized something right away. This is the last question on the pop quiz, I promise. Does anyone know what God realized in that moment? Kathy's nodding. Kathy? It's not good for the human to be alone. Yep. So, God said, I will make this human a helper. And that's the word that's used in the Bible and in the Torah, a helper. According to these ancient scriptures, God made one person first and pretty much immediately realized, this is no good. We can't have this. It won't work. You, singular human being, need a helper. Now, some of you may have grown up with a very strictly gendered version of this story and may have been taught that helper was meant to indicate subordinate. But that is a creation of the culture around the scripture. The ancient Hebrew word used in scripture for helper is ezer, which is also a word used to describe God more than 60 times in the Bible. God is also a helper. And Jesus, in the Christian New Testament, refers to the Holy Spirit also many times as a helper. So to be a helper is to be like God. A helper is not a subordinate. Perhaps to understand all of us ourselves as being like that, as being helpers, and as being people, individuals in need of a helper, is simply a reflection of the deepest truth, that we all need each other. We need a helper, each of us, to do our work, to tend our gardens, to make a living. And we need helpers to make a life. I wonder how many of us think about perhaps the job that you do for pay or that you've done in your lifetime for work. Maybe you've never worked for pay in your life. Think about the jobs that you've had, the work you've done to raise children or build a home or volunteer. I wonder how many of us have ever thought about the roots, the beginnings of the work that we do. Some of us do work with long, long histories, almost eternal work. The work of raising the next generation has been here forever. The work of some of the older professions like law or medicine or ministry, the work of teaching, the work of growing food. These are all examples of work with deep roots in human history. Maybe more so than like a social media manager, right? The roots of that work do not run quite as deep, but on the other hand, the social media managers of the world have an advantage, that they can see the origins of their work. It is fresh, it's close to them, maybe exciting in a way to be part of creating something new in this unfolding of human history. And I wonder how many of us have ever explored the roots of where we work. If you think about the institution or the organization or the company that you have worked for, do you know how long it's existed or who was there at the beginning? What motivated them? Why it was created? Who might you be connected to across time, whether by virtue of the work that you do, the kind of work, or by virtue of the place that you work? Whose legacy prepared this work for you? And how might we all be helpers to the ones who began our work before us? How have those people from the past, those ancestors, been a helper to us as well in laying this ground? There's a quote from the great activist and pastor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It says, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." You can probably picture this, right? Standing on the ground with a large, winding staircase that turns out of view. And you know it leads up, but you can't see the top from where you are standing. And yet you take the first step because you trust the direction. Dr. King said variations of this quote throughout his life. A colleague of his, the great anti-poverty and education activist Marian Wright Edelman, quoted this specific sentence very often when she described the impact that Dr. King had on her work, expressing this idea that sometimes you simply cannot see the whole picture from your vantage point on the floor. And if you let that stop you, if you insist on seeing the top before you make a move at all, well, then you will never get there. There is a humility that I think the spiritual life that we practice here, that we strive to practice, asks us to adopt. And that humility can help us when we think about our work, how it matters tremendously what we do while we're here, and yet our own personal private work is not so much the point. We always work in companionship, in collegiality, in common with each other, sometimes directly hand in hand, and sometimes with people we will never meet and may not even know about. That is part of that humility, of how we can apply our spirituality to our work, part of that trust. If you've ever chased an accolade, you probably know that it's not where you find the deepest meaning in your work, even if you win it. The deepest meaning is found in the connection that you feel with others. Now, I have maybe given you some big picture things to think about, like the whole creation of humanity and all that, but I want to bring this back down to the ground with a story. A story from our final volunteer in this message series about making a living and making a life, where we asked members of our congregation if they would share a little bit about their work and what they do. And today, Carol Ruark offered to share with us a little bit about her life and her work. And Carol is here. There she is. Hi, Carol. Now, Beth, our intern who preached last Sunday, did get to visit one of our other volunteers. She visited Steve Waldman for a tour of the firehouse where he works. But Carol was actually the only one of our volunteers who, instead of preparing a talk for us, encouraged us to just come out and watch her, spend a day with her where she works. So earlier this month, I got to spend a Monday morning with Carol. And you'll see in a moment that I spent a little bit of time interviewing her actually on video. But then we decided to get a little more informal. And I just turned on the voice recorder on my phone and set it on the table between us while we had a conversation. A conversation for which the most interesting portion, of course, came not from any of the questions I had prepared for Carol, but rather when she asked me, "Hey Lee, what surprised you most about my job?" And to help you get the most out of the conversation that I'll share with you in just a moment, I want to give you a little bit of background about the place where Carol works. You see, Carol knows a fair amount about the origins of her workplace. She actually knows why the institution she works for was created and by who. This right here is a small picture. Oh, it's not that small, blew up nicely. But this is the founder of the organization that Carol now runs. This is Elizabeth Garrett. If you can imagine, 1831, almost 2 centuries ago now, but right here, just over in Newtown Square, Elizabeth Garrett was born on a farm. She was raised in the Quaker faith tradition. And just before the Civil War, Elizabeth Garrett married a man who owned and ran a paper mill in Upper Darby. Now, Elizabeth probably never worked for pay in her whole life. And we don't know too much about how she spent her days. But we do know what happened after she died. And she wanted it that way. She literally willed it that way. You see, Elizabeth and her husband were living in Upper Darby, but as she got older, she asked her husband to use his money from the paper mill to buy back that farm in Newtown Square where she was born. And when Elizabeth died in 1910, she did not leave that property to family or to be sold off. Instead, she asked that the farm and all of its buildings and equipment be maintained to provide a place of rest for poor children and single women, for the working girls who labored in the mills, just like the one her husband ran. Now, it made a little more sense in those times. Physical work like that was often somewhat seasonal. Extreme heat would shut down factories, sometimes in the city in the summertime. And so women and children of means often left the city to go stay in the country and enjoy nature. But Elizabeth wanted her property to provide that space of restoration for the women who worked and the children whose families couldn't afford it. And she stipulated that the farm be kept always beautiful, with flowers and crops in the field and animals and trails through the woods, just so that these women and children could enjoy some quiet, restorative time on the farm. Now, the low-income families of our day live in a slightly different reality, right? For most, a farm vacation in the summer does not exactly meet their pressing needs. But Garrett Williamson, as the property is now called, grew and changed in order to carry forward that original purpose of providing rest and respite for working families, providing subsidized childcare and camps and out-of-school time programs on this big, sprawling old farm just down the road in present-day Newtown Square. So now that you know a little bit about the history of this organization, I will let Carol take it from here.
So Carol, tell us a little bit about your job. What's your job title? What do you do? What's your day-to-day like?
So I'm the executive director of Garrett Williamson. I'm going to probably say something that a lot of other people say. No 2 days are really ever the same, but what I do is I oversee childcare, Camp Garrett, agriculture education, the property and the facilities. And when I say I oversee it, I'm not the one out there cutting the grass. I have great senior staff that do all of this, but I oversee every aspect of Garrett Williamson. which is a 240-acre property in the middle of Newtown Square that benefits families in need.
And you were telling me earlier, how many staff do you have?
So there's 50 during the year, during the 9 months, and then we bulk up to 90 when it's summer camp time.
And about how many kids are served each year by Garrett Williamson?
So during the school year, it's about 180. And then during the summer, we add an additional 200 campers per week. Now those campers might change or they might be here all 10 weeks. So in the summer, we serve about 300 more children than we do during the year. Wow. So it's pretty cool.
So we took a tour and we walked around to different classrooms and we saw all the animals, but your average day is probably more sitting in this room, right?
Yes.
Right over there, and going to meetings. How often do you get to interact in ways that you feel like you're experiencing kind of the mission of what Garrett Williamson does?
Ooh, good question. Not enough is my first answer. But I would say if I walk down the hallway enough, it could be every day. But maybe it's a few times a week. And then there's certain times that there are true mission moments that my employees will share something with me that just blow me away by how we can help a family that truly needs us.
Is there any example that you can share like that? It's okay if there's not.
Well, I'm thinking of one example where there's a grandmom that has custody of her grandchildren, and just seeing them in a consistent environment during the day so that grandmom can work and then they have a consistent environment at night. That's sort of a general mission moment that we affect. And there's actually multiple grandmoms that this happens to.
Is this what you thought you'd be doing when you were a kid? Is this a career that you set out to have, or did you fall into this work?
Not at all, and sort of. So I dreamed of being an artist. I dreamed of being a teacher. As I got older, in my late teens and then into college, I did fall in love with early childhood education, and I was a youth activities director on the naval base in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I got this job opportunity right near my house to be a childcare director. So by young 20s, like, yes, I wanted to be a childcare director, and I have loved childcare. But I never expected to be an executive director where there's a whole, childcare is our biggest program, but there's a whole lot more that goes on here. Like you saw, like we're in the middle of lambing season right now at our barn. So I'm around farm animals sometimes, and we do hikes through the woods, and the summer camp. I had done summer camp as a young adult, but I'm back around to my roots of that.
In what ways? So Carol, tell us. So Carol, tell us a little bit about your job. What's your job title? What do you do? What's your day-to-day like?
So I'm the executive director of Garrett Williamson. I'm going to probably say something that a lot of other people say. No 2 days are really ever the same, but what I do is I oversee childcare, Camp Garrett, agriculture education, the property and the facilities. And when I say I oversee it, I'm not the one out there cutting the grass. I have great senior staff that do all of this, but I oversee every aspect of Garrett Williamson, which is a 240-acre property in the middle of Newtown Square that benefits families in need.
And you were telling me earlier, how many staff do you have?
So there's 50 during the year, during the 9 months, and then we bulk up to 90 when it's summer camp time.
And about how many kids are served each year by Garrett Williamson?
So during the school year, it's about 180. And then during the summer, we add an additional 200 campers per week. Now those campers might change or they might be here all 10 weeks. So in the summer, we serve about 300 more children than we do during the year. So it's pretty cool.
So we took a tour and we walked around to different classrooms and we saw all the animals, but your average day is probably more sitting in this room, right?
Yes.
Right over there, and going to meetings. How often do you get to interact in ways that you feel like you're experiencing kind of the mission of what Garrett Williamson does?
Ooh, good question. Not enough is my first answer. But I would say if I walk down the hallway enough, it could be every day. But maybe it's a few times a week. And then there's certain times that there are true mission moments that my employees will share something with me that just blow me away by how we can help a family that truly needs us.
Is there any example that you can share like that? It's okay if there's not.
Well, I'm thinking of one example where there's a grandmom that has custody of her grandchildren, and just seeing them in a consistent environment during the day so that grandmom can work and then they have a consistent environment at night. That's sort of a general mission moment that we affect. And there's actually multiple grandmoms that this happens to.
Is this what you thought you'd be doing when you were a kid? Is this a career that you set out to have, or did you fall into this work?
Not at all, and sort of. So I dreamed of being an artist. I dreamed of being a teacher. As I got older, in my late teens and then into college, I did fall in love with early childhood education, and I was a youth activities director on the naval base in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I got this job opportunity right near my house to be a childcare director. So by young 20s, like, yes, I wanted to be a childcare director, and I have loved childcare. But I never expected to be an executive director where there's childcare is our biggest program, but there's a whole lot more that goes on here. Like you saw, like we're in the middle of lambing season right now at our barn. So I'm around farm animals sometimes, and we do hikes through the woods and the summer camp. I had done summer camp as a young adult, but I'm back around to my roots of that.
In what ways does your work give you a sense of purpose?
Well, it's always been a common theme for me that I want to make sure children are treated with respect and dignity and have a safe place to be. And I feel like it's here, and I feel like throughout my career I've been able to help more and more children. This is a larger center than I had years ago. To have all this open space where camp is involved too, I feel like I've been able to impact young children by giving them a place to feel safe. I hope everybody who comes here feels safe. I don't know if I could be in a job or be in a job this long if it didn't feel like something I wanted to see in the world. I don't know if I would make it in a job that didn't have this kind of impact. Believe me, there have been times where I have thought, maybe it's time to do something else, and I keep coming back to how connected I am as more than just a paycheck. Yeah. Is there anything that you learned when you were here that you were surprised by, or?
The thing that surprised me, honestly, was the history of this place and how big it is, and how you're an executive director, but you're also the organization that you lead has such a long legacy and such a deep history in this area and in this community. And to me, that maybe it's partially because we were talking a little earlier about the ways that we can relate to each other as leaders of organizations. Your organization is bigger, but your organization is also hundreds of years older by a large factor. And I think I would feel some weight on my shoulders with that. And just the way that changes how you think about, well, I don't know if it changes the way you think about it. To me, it makes me admire you and think about how you're carrying a legacy forward. You know, you're not just managing the day-to-day of this place, but you're also part of the history of this multi-century organization. That
No
will
pressure.
But you've been here for a long time, and you're clearly devoted to this place and to seeing it continue, and you've helped it change with the times, and it will continue to change with the times, and I think that's amazing, while still being essentially what it was supposed to be from the beginning, which is a community, a place of safety for children and families.
I have never felt the weight necessarily of the legacy. I felt the weight of security.
What do you mean?
Mass shootings, emergency plans, making sure that you pick the right staff, the best staff, labor shortages, and how you balance that out. Tick-borne illnesses, like those
Well, you said
kind
that
of
the
things.
thing that's closest to your heart is that you want to create a safe place, and you're also responsible now for ensuring safety to the extent that you can.
Yeah. So that's where the weight falls. But now you've given me another aspect to it.
It's admiration, though, at the end of the day, like I said, that
Thank you.
you're part of something that has survived throughout time, like across multiple generations of people, and you're helping it continue to survive after you're gone.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. What else? I didn't know you had alpacas. You have so many alpacas.
Yes. They're adorable. They're adorable.
I am surprised and I'm not, but I guess I'm a little sad that but it's actually probably not surprising at all to me that you don't get to spend as much time as maybe you'd like to, like connecting with the kids and visiting the animals and doing, like, there's such delightful opportunities here to not feel like you're in a typical 9-to-5 office job. And it sounds like you know that and you take advantage of it, but maybe not as much as you wish you did.
Yeah. A friend of mine recently told me about job crafting, where you're still in the same job, but you work on doing things that feed your soul more. And there are times that I'm content that I could say to you, I'm doing it all in the background to create and continue to create a safe place. But there are times that I really have to, I feel I need to do better to be in the infant room more often or go to see a lamb. So you've just helped me make my job better this week.
Well, part of leadership, right, is creating these spaces for everyone to enjoy. And I think that job crafting idea is part of and thinking not just about how you serve, but also how you're fed in your work, right, is making sure that you also enjoy those spaces, not just that you're creating them from other people.
Yes, you're totally right.
Wow. So there were other people, of course, right, in this lineage, following these threads in between the two people on the screen, in between Elizabeth Garrett and our friend Carol Ruark. But maybe you can see, if you will allow me to extend that metaphor a little bit from the ancient scriptures, maybe you can see the way that perhaps God made a helper for Elizabeth Garrett across time. Maybe you can see how, having never set out to do so or known that that's part of what she was doing, that Carol became a helper to the purpose that Elizabeth set out. Elizabeth, who was just doing what she could in her time with the resources that she had available to her to create the world that she wanted to see. And if you can see that, then maybe you can also see the ways that Elizabeth Garrett was a helper to Carol. Her choice to allocate her land for this greater purpose gave Carol a place to unfold in her calling, in our time. In some ways, you could certainly say that this is a tale of two extraordinary women, but it's also a tale of two perfectly ordinary women, just living their lives, making a living in their way, helping each other 100 years apart. Our Making a Life recipe cards that I handed out now maybe 6 weeks ago, they're still here if you didn't get to take one. There's some on the table. I have some. There'll be some at our potluck after the service. And I hope that you will talk with each other after the service a little bit about how you're answering these questions, of not just how you want to make a living, but how you want to make a life that you can love. But don't forget, as you think about all these good questions, what you wish to do with the time that you have left. Don't forget to leave a little bit of space for mystery, to appreciate and recognize the work of everyone who placed you here where you are, and to remember that the sum of whatever you will create in this life may feed others, people you'll never know or know about for years and years to come. I'll invite our band back up on stage for our last song as I invite all of you to join me now in the spirit of prayer. Holder of the mysteries of our lives, the mysteries of this world, creator from the beginning of all that we are and all that we see. May our souls be filled and charged today by the way that those mysteries sometimes unfold, by the way that our spirits can be energized by looking back and looking forward, by realizing our connections that we did not know about, but that are still here always. For the prayers that I've spoken out loud, and for the prayers that everyone gathered here today and with us online, in their homes, are holding on their hearts, we say amen.
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and join us for our final song today.
Well, I said, Lord, here's the total of what I have done. Sometimes I did good, sometimes I done wrong, but I did the best I could from where I come from, and I'll keep on trying till my day is done. I'm so proud and humble, humble and proud. I am proud and humble, humble and proud. I am proud and humble, humble and proud. When I come, yeah, when I'm done. Oh, I made the most from what I knew then. But if I lived it over, I'd do the same again. I try for you to please, but you know I'm only human. You created me. I'm so proud and humble, humble and proud. I am proud and humble, humble and proud. I am proud and humble, humble and proud. When I come, yeah, when I'm done. Oh, I'm humbled by you and thankful, oh Lord. I studied your life and your holy word, but I hold my head just a little high, 'cause I'm proud that I got on with this given life. I'm so proud and humble, humble and proud. I am proud and humble.
torchlight may go out, but the source that sparked it is always within each of us. And together we say, as we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. The winners of the Bible Pop Quiz will receive their prizes in the mail. Keep an eye out. And in the meantime, I hope you all find something to be fed by, literally and figuratively, as you go through the week. We'll be here next Sunday. Let's put our hands together one more time. Take us out.